Welkom bij de derde aflevering van de ShapingDigital podcast. In deze podcast gaan we in gesprek met Bei Wang. En we gaan de podcast in het Engels doen, omdat het eigenlijk een heel internationaal topic is waar we vandaag over praten. Dus dat past wel. So let's switch to English. Welcome to the third edition of our ShapingDigital podcast. Like I just said in Dutch, today we're talking to Bei Wang. She's the co-founder of 5 Degrees, a company with which she helps companies to reach the Chinese market. Part of this is also just reaching the Chinese customer, both here in Europe and also actually in China. And today we're going to focus around the many possibilities that the Chinese market and the Chinese way of doing business can offer for us here in the West. Obviously, China is a very broad topic with a lot to talk about, so we have to keep it a little bit specific, so we're going to mostly focus around retail. Bei, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I think a good way to introduce this conversation is by sort of clarifying the development that China has gone through. I notice that when we're talking to people, many people still think that China is simply a country that produces a lot of inferior goods, and they don't really necessarily see made in China as a seal of quality. Can you tell us something about the development that China has gone through from that to the forefront that it is on today?
And it's very nice that you mentioned it, because when we mention China, and then there's a lot of like signature words already. For example, one of it is made in China, as you just said, and made in China has a lot of connotation and implication. Well, on the other hand, made in China is a term that already covered several years. So of course there are certain part of the opinion thinking like related made in China to very cheap or even fake products. But in the meantime, actually, there's the other side of the voice that we hear more and more now, because made in China is not necessarily mean cheap or knockoff. Of course, the cheap and knockoff made in China products still exist. However, China has already, in the last decades, been we call it the world factory. So there's a lot of manufacturing in China because of lots of manufacturer. So you have different levels of those production chains. China has expertise and engineers and infrastructure to also make quality products, especially those products are related to, we would say, Western brands, because there's a lot of Western brands also they made in China. Yeah. For example, especially we look at the electronicas.
Yeah. Or they already have their production factories in China.
Yes, yeah. Apple. Yeah. And the word pop out is Apple. And then at the same time, also we see the fast development of Chinese economy. And because of the economic development, there's also a fast growing amount of middle class in China. The growing middle class in China also require good quality products. So that is also a driven force for the improvement of good quality, well-designed, custom-focused quality products and genuine real products. So I think made in China is changing. And of course, from the China itself, the Chinese general public and central governments, also from the industry, they also call for a new trend. They call it create in China.
Okay, so a growing middle class in China, simply the fact that there are many more people who earn more money is one of the main drivers of the Chinese economy and Chinese stores developing more quality products.
Yes, because a growing middle class, they have a very strong buying power, and then they also have the desire to improve the made in China brand and compete head to head to the global market.
Yeah, okay. To show the world like...
Yeah, we are able to create high quality international level products. Yeah.
And so how do you think that this development has changed the way that Chinese stores do business? How has it changed Chinese retail?
As it just said, that the growing middle class is like driving force of the good quality products. But in the meantime, we see the technology and digital development of China is developing enormously fast. So there's a lot of elements which also come together with a new term. We call it new retail, because when we talk about stores, people, of course, globally we immediately think of the traditional store brick and mortar stores. But in China, there's a new trend. Recently, we hear more in the international media. New retail. It's a word said by the founder of the famous Alibaba, Jack Ma. However, new retail doesn't just belong to Alibaba or doesn't just China, because in many places it's already happening. It's just that it gives us a very clear term on it. Because if we, for example, think about Japan, interesting enough, I don't know whether you know a very famous Japanese brand called Muji. Muji is a Japanese business, and then a few years ago, when I travel in China, I hear a lot of marketeers, a lot of industry people talk about Muji because they see Muji as an example. They want to create a shop like Muji. So at that time, a lot of people talk about online to offline, O2O. So actually, new retail is also a form of O2O, but it's not just a form of new O2O, online to offline. It's also, I think, more, because online to offline, and this is also a term that we use everywhere, and then so it's kind of like full access to combine people, products, and places or / location, using technology to digitize and automate offline stores. But the other important part I want to add, next to the O2O part, is that so it's how I say it's a driving force about selling beautifully designed, quickly manufactured, and frequently iterated products at the lowest price possible.
So you said it's an automated offline store.
Yes.
What does that mean?
When we look at the whole new retail model now in China, it's mainly taking place. There are in different sectors it's taking place, but we see a lot of happening in the traditional like fashion retail and supermarkets, and the automated is because in China the e-commerce is growing very fast, we all know, and then there are more percentage of people buying online than buying offline or in the physical store.
More, you said.
Yeah, there are already more in China. And another key significance is that the Chinese, they buy, their e-commerce is mobile phone driven. So instead of you buy things on computer, you use mobile phone. So which means that this whole digitization of this is linked to the physical store. And then an important element is the data. So we take example of a lot of people in the Western world now talk about the Alibaba new retail, like the famous Hema. It spells similar to Hema, but it's Hema. Hema is a supermarket. So Hema is people can order online, and then they are like they are the customers, and they are also the members because they created this whole membership. So as an individual customer, your online behavior is it's in the data bank, and then.
So the main difference between a traditional supermarket that we would see over here, like Albert Heijn or Lidl or anything else, and Gema is then that it's a mix. It's an integration of online and offline.
Yes.
So you're buying offline, like you're physical in the store, but you're buying online at the end.
Yeah. You can do both, because I'd like to actually use also the JD. JD is another e-commerce giant. JD has also it's smart retail. JD is similar to Hema, Alibaba's retail. So basically you enter the supermarket, because in the Chinese consumer, they like to buy via the mobile phone. So you just use QR code, you scan the product, and then you can have it sent to your house.
So you're buying it inside the store with the QR code?
Yes. And then the payment is also online, because in China, the Alipay or WeChat Pay. Because basically in China, people don't take wallets outside anymore.
Let me just summarize it to see if I understood it well. So the Gema store, I would go in there and instead of picking up products and putting them in my shopping cart, I pick them up and scan them with my phone. I walk around the store without a cart, and then I simply walk out of the store. I've paid for my products online.
Yeah, and you get it shipped to your house.
And I get it shipped to my house. So if you go to a Gemma or a Chinese supermarket, you don't see a lot of people with shopping carts in their hands.
Well, some people still do that, but you can do both.
Okay.
It's all based on I think the key of this new retail, as I just said, that the element is that it creates a very easy and intuitive customer experience.
Yeah.
It's all customer focused. So customer need to fulfill their wish.
Yeah. So they get also recommendations.
Yes.
So inside the store, they get a recommendation. You have to buy this heavy shape or something.
Yes, and also what I want to zoom in this whole model is that, again, taking Alibaba as example, Alibaba has its e-commerce platform. You have Taobao and also Tmall. Tmall we hear a lot here. Tmall is an online shopping marketplace, and now there are more and more. Alibaba create this Tmall a little bit like neighboring stores. Okay. So it allows that it's almost like you give local entrepreneur, the whole full service to use, which means that they are very strong. They have Ali Cloud, so all the data, the data banks. Yeah. So you have all the customer data in it, and then because when people use Tmall or Taobao, you become a member of this app, shopping app, and then your search behavior, your hobby, your buying behavior is in it, and then so you also have products shipped. So all these data, they go to the data bank and they can analyze it. They will know which area, which region, what kind of people like, what kind of thing. So that kind of gives them a good overview of what kind of supply product
per specific region in a separate city.
Yeah, so in region, in area, and then because at this moment it's mainly focused in the east part of China, and then so they have a knowledge about you have also the weather elements and also the lifestyle elements, so they will know what kind of food people like, what kind of products.
So does this then lead to, because you say it's per specific region in a city, does that mean that if I go to so to sort of to relate it to Amsterdam where we are right now.
Yeah. We imagine for future.
To make it a little bit more tangible. I live in Amsterdam East myself. I grew up in the South. Does that mean that the supermarket I visit, the small neighborhood supermarket I visit in the South, has way different products than I would visit in the East?
I wouldn't call it way different, but you can see the difference because it's very customer driven.
Yeah.
So I think they also analyze because in China you have different living area, so it will see your average expense on it.
Yeah.
For some you have this living district, maybe their house is more expensive, so people they have more purchasing power. They have different type of products.
Yeah, we have to mention a Chinese city is much bigger than.
Yes, exactly. I think using Amsterdam is not a good example. Maybe you should use Holland.
Okay, so it's a different scope. You maybe have 20 million people living in one city.
Yeah, in Shanghai you have 22 million people.
Okay, so that's supermarkets. I can see that, and I think you also mentioned fashion stores.
Yes.
So how would this new retail, this online-offline integration in fashion stores work? How is it different than what we know over here?
Yeah, in fashion stores there are some new stores that are experimenting it. Actually, for example, Zara is experimenting this new smart retail. So in Zara, it's almost like you combined the online shopping in the store. So you go to a Zara store. There's this new store in Zara that in Shanghai. You entered it. It's like a showroom. It's different from the traditional store. So you can try on clothes and then you can shop online and you can try the latest trend and then have it also sent home.
So more like a digital showroom.
Yes. So this is one, but I want to also give a few examples of some smaller business that probably is unknown here, but in China, that's something also combined with, we call it influencer marketing or KOL marketing.
Yes, so KOL or KOL marketing, it stands for key opinion leader marketing, and that's comparable to influencer marketing in Europe, I suppose, but something that's way bigger. So can you just compare the two? Is it similar?
Yes, but here we have the term influencer, and you have like now you have like a big influencer or micro or nano, like very in China it's similar. You have also like influencer like celebrities, but now actually there is also a new kind of in marketing world. We call it everyone can be an influencer, because one of the biggest drive for a Chinese person to purchase a product, it's either being follow the influencer that she or he follow, or recommended by his or her friend. So you have this community kind of like a partner kind of effect. Yeah. So if your friend all use this and you buy it. So we also call it like maybe a mom. She has a lot of friends and she is more outspoken, have more like personal style. She can also be an influencer.
So you can see online what your friends are buying or wearing?
Yeah, what I want to say is that, for example, this whole new retail model is used by a lot of brands in China. Instead of like in a store, then you organize pop-up campaign. So it's a pop-up store. For example, this like Maybelline or L'Oreal do quite a few campaigns in China, and what they do is they organize events in one of their offline shopping area. So they have their own like counter, so where you can buy L'Oreal lipstick. So they organize that event, and then the news is spread around online. So they said, okay, one of the film star or this winner of this Voice of China, for example, is there on that day. So their fans will go there, and then they live streaming it. Because live streaming is also a form of this digital marketing. It's very popular in China because it's a huge country and not everyone is able to go to the physical place. So they watch online, and then so they combined the online sales with the on-spot sales together. And then I remember like there are some very successful case. For example, with a certain color of the L'Oreal lipstick, done by an influencer, I think it was last year. So within, I think, few hours, 20,000 lipsticks are sold.
So while online streaming, you can already buy like a
yes,
or
yes,
something.
Okay.
yes.
And that's how they use the KOLs, the key opinion leaders.
Yes.
To,
Yes.
Do they still have the physical products in store, like the lipstick example?
Well, they put a few.
Yeah.
But
most of them are just.
But you don't have to, because
no,
you don't have to. I think that's also kind of reduced the kind of pressure.
Yeah.
So I think that is also so new retail is you can call it a business model, but it can also be a campaign or activity. So it's being used everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, I also think that sort of that social connection, that sharing everything you buy. I mean, it's something that's happening over here, but if I understand it correctly, then it's much more intertwined with business in China.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of another example that I thought was pretty cool, of a hairdresser, and about this hair salon that's completely designed so that people can, while they sit in the chair and their hairdresser is cutting their hair, everything is shared instantly with the network of the hairdressers, and also with themselves. So even going to the hair salon becomes much more of a social experience because it adds to your brand.
Yeah, I think in China it's just sky's limit. So everything is possible, every form. So this gives a lot of like new creativity in terms of organizing creative campaign, marketing. But then I think we still need to really focus on one element. Is like it's all sales driven. I think that is a very smart part, because I used to work with a lot of marketeers, and then you have traditional advertising, you have all these marketing campaign, but what is the return? And then in China, they are very straightforward. It's all about sales. So I think even the influencer, because we see now on Instagram, you have this page, and then if you want to purchase this product, you go to the other platform. I think what is smart about China is this thing as WeChat, for example, that is created that you cannot leave.
It's always
Everything is
All
taking.
in the platform or
Yeah.
WeChat.
So WeChat is part of Tencent, right?
It's part of Tencent. Yeah.
Yeah, Tencent. And okay, and on WeChat, everything is integrated. So if I'm a retailer in China, I have to get my personal store on the Tencent WeChat.
You can do, we call it ecosystem. So Alibaba and Tencent, they are like two very bigger, like two of the biggest player. So they have two ecosystem.
Yeah.
Tencent, if you are a retailer, you can open up a store on Tencent. You can sell your things, and then you can get this whole social like sharing. Now we call it social commerce. We don't call it e-commerce anymore. Social commerce. Social commerce. While on Alibaba, you have the famous Taobao Tmall, and it's also an app. And then you have the Alipay integrated. And then that is an e-commerce platform, but it's also a content platform. Because you can have a lot of content, you can read, you can have like product review, you have also like live streaming, video. Short video is now the most popular one, because it's almost like here you have a product using experience, or you have some creative YouTuber doing things, but then it's taking place on YouTube. Yeah. So if you want to buy it, you still need to leave YouTube, you go to another one. Yeah. While in China, you don't leave, you stay there.
So Alibaba and Tencent both have their own YouTube and their own.
Yes, they both have their own YouTube. You can say
they
that.
have their own Facebook and their own Twitter.
Yes.
It all exists in that ecosystem of either Alibaba or Tencent.
Yes.
So they're both like a multi-platform.
Yes.
But do I have to? So if I'm a retailer, I have to choose either one. I can imagine, because you can't have half of your store in one ecosystem and half in the other.
Well, I think for brands, for companies, I think of course sometimes they make a choice, because of course there's also a conflict of interest. Yeah. And Alibaba and Tencent, they are very, very hard competitors, neck to neck to each other. But on the other hand, I think a good brands, good products, beautiful designed products is an extra asset for Alibaba or Tencent. So they are also fighting for that. I think if a notice for the Western companies, I think European brands or Western companies has this good reputation of creating beautiful, good quality or heritage products or beautiful brands. Yeah. And we see that happens in the last years. Like Tencent ecosystem is fighting against the Alibaba ecosystem with some like luxury brands. But then of course in China, the government also intervene with certain kind of like you can't dominate one market, so you have to have like equal competition, a fair play. So in that case, I think brands, if you just focus on making your own beautiful products, and then I think you can choose both.
Yeah, and as a customer, do you have to choose between or Tencent or Alibaba?
Well, I think again, customer is the king in China. Okay. So I think that is the driven force for why all these platforms keep improving their quality, their service. How do they? And then I would say the one thing that Western company need to learn from China is the customer service. I think in China it's the top level service. So if they have for example, if they would buy a certain product and they search it, and then they can find the same kind of product on both ecosystem, but then they are going to purchase it, and then they are going to look at, okay, is the logistic doing well? Do I receive, because in China they want to receive the products as soon as possible. I think logistic is so strong. I remember when I was in China, I stay in hotel, so I order something beforehand. So the product has to arrive on time, because I stay in this hotel for only one day. Yeah. And then I go to another city.
It has to be within
Yeah,
May
and
at your
it's
hotel.
always on time.
Okay. So on your phone you have both the WeChat app and the Tencent app.
Yes, I do. I
Okay,
have
so-
a lot of apps.
Of course. No, but I mean, if it sounds like such a battle between two giants, I thought about the comparison between an iPhone and an Android brand, and
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who uses both. So I
Yeah,
thought maybe
similar. Yeah, but I think it's in China. I think people will have a lot, but of course, it's the quality of the service in the end wins. So I think
yeah.
I think it's better comparison to compare like bol.com and Coolblue in Holland.
something like that.
Sometimes I
Yeah.
buy my stuff on
Yeah.
Coolblue and sometimes at bol.com.
Okay, I like the comparison with bol.com.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I can imagine if I'm bol.com, I look at Alibaba and I think this is the ideal. This is what I want to reach.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that bol.com is also making should they also work towards becoming an ecosystem, or do you think it's different between the Netherlands and China?
I think there is a major difference between European consumer and Chinese consumer, because Chinese consumer are very, very demanding, and then I think China is still in the era of like consumerism, and I think and then here on the other hand. You have a lot of legislation also, like the protection of the data. And so I think if you like copy paste the format, I don't think that work.
No.
But on the other hand, I do think that for players in the e-commerce here, maybe they should look at China as a glimpse of the future, because I do know, or I heard that Coolblue is building their offline store. And now we also see like the retail is not doing well in Europe. A lot of shops are closing down.
Yeah.
One way, maybe I think this e-commerce can work together with the retail and create something like profitable for both.
Yeah.
And then in the end to win,
Like
to
more
gain
like
the
a Coolblue platform or something.
Yeah,
Where offline
yeah.
stores can sell their stuff
yeah,
at the platform or Coolblue or bol.com.
yeah.
Do you think that you mentioned that legislation is of course different? Of course, the government plays a large role in this. I don't think that should be the focus of this podcast because it's a very different subject. But
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ignore it either.
No.
Do you think that with European legislation, it's even possible at all for Dutch retailers to reach such a level as retailers in China do?
I think you have different level of different scope of a business. As I just said, that when we look at new retail, you see like successful cases as Alibaba's Hema, but you also see a small retail store that they are using new retail formats to boost their sales. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe not on such a big like level here because of like the protection of data, but on the other hand, you can have all sizes of community. What I think is like here, if for example Albert Heijn or Jumbo, they know who their customers are, and then I think they follow the legislation and the rules here, and then I think in the end, customer wants to have easy life, and then I do think people here have more awareness of the privacy, but on the other hand, as human, everyone wants to have easy life and also want to buy beautiful products but good price.
Yeah.
So I think that is like a common challenge and opportunity, but also needs for all people in the world. So I do think that you don't do the same scale as China, but a certain format I think can do.
That focus on good customer service and on
Yes.
great products for a cheap price is of course something that everyone wants. So I mean, value creation for companies is something that Alibaba and Tencent seem to do very well.
Yeah.
That's not really. I think when most people hear news about China, that's not really what they hear. I think it's what you hear is stories about the government, stories about data protection, privacy infringement. I mean, do you think that there's too much of a focus on negative news coming out of China?
I think there's always. I think people like to. The traditional news is like tend to be like black and white, but I think we live now in a world there are all kind of formats and also nuance, and also I think the digital news, also like the new media, we call it new media, is taking. I think I can't say replacing, but it's rising. So in the past, because of the news about a far distant country that you have a correspondent or journalist going there, you write a story and come here, but that's so small. And now people can see a place via digital readings. Yeah, exactly. So I think in that case, I think the mindset also need to kind of get used to it. Instead of like being judgmental and black and white, there's also the area that is not so black and white. Yeah. Of course, we keep talking about this whole government's political thing, but on the other hand, we do see the happy people, and then the growing business, and the growing economy, and the satisfied citizens. So I think that is the part that we should just. There are two sides of the coin. Yeah. I think I feel I spoke to a lot of people from like we call them international travelers, and it's funny, like one term I hear quite often in recent years is that we said that the young generation Chinese seems to know more about the Western world than the other way around. Okay. Yeah. I yesterday I read an article from a guy. He is Yap. I forgot his last name. He's a Dutch, but he works in Shanghai now. He wrote a very nice article online, and he also said the same thing, because his experience is when he's in China and he feels like it's so different.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting near the end of our time. Basically, I think there's one final question I want to ask at least. I think. Well, actually, there are many more questions.
There's like a lot of questions online now. So.
I think one thing is interesting, because we've talked a lot about how things are in China, and I looked up the numbers real quickly just before this interview. In 2017, 145 million Chinese tourists went abroad. That's way more than any other country, and as a whole, they far outspend tourists from other countries as well. And a lot of them are coming to the Netherlands. I think that's a development that everyone sees, and I can imagine if you're used to this level of customer service and this futuristic retail, then coming to the West can feel like a step back, which is a weird realization. But how do you think that Dutch stores, brands, museums, shops, whatever, need to adapt to sort of service this large group of tourists as well?
This is a topic that has been like quite hot in the tourism industry. Actually, adaptation is already taking place, because we see, for example, like Schiphol Airport or Bijenkorf department store, they use the digital payments service to attract a customer. I think that is already a good improvement. And we also see a lot of more and more stores, they have like Chinese shop assistants, and this is, I think, the basic. But I think one thing quite important is that those travelers, unless they move to Holland to study or work, if they are just a short-time traveler, they make their decision, they plan their trip already before they board on the plane. So I think one element that a lot of I think retail store or tourism or museums they haven't really paid attention to or dig into is the customer journey of a Chinese outbound traveler. And then of course you have two types of traveler. One is the group traveler, that they join a travel group, so it's well organized, and then you can do like B2B development and connect with the travel agency. But then you have more and more individual traveler or traveler in smaller groups. So I think it is important to also have a better understanding of their whole customer journey. What I mean customer journey is that what app they are using, how do they search information, what are they looking for, how do they plan their because again, everything in China is so digitalized. So the Chinese, they arrive here, the first thing to do is they open up, or before they get on to the plane, they open their telephone, and then they prepare everything. So you just need to customer made your service around that.
So even as a Dutch store, just accepting Chinese payment cards and having a Chinese-speaking worker in your store is really just the basics. The next step that needs to be taken is really understanding.
I think this is the basic
journey.
because this is passive way of getting the client, but you need to start getting the active and or even proactive way of reaching out. By reaching out, it's like you need to follow or know their customer journey so that you will do the digital marketing or branding or reaching out.
Grab their attention before they're done looking.
Yes.
Like they used to it.
Yeah.
In China.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're definitely past our time already, but I think it's a great message to Dutch stores, to European stores and retailers that they need to spend more time to really investigate these. First of all, these Chinese ways of doing business, but also how to reach the customer.
Yes.
And we're actually setting up with Digital Shapers and together with Bei, we're setting up a workshop, 2 workshops even. First one of those 2 focused around inspiration, great examples from the Chinese market, and then a second workshop focused around reaching these customers. They're taking place in February, and if anyone who listened is inspired or wants to learn more, then I urge you to check out www.digitalshapers.nl. There's more information to be found there. I think that's wrapping up for now from my side. Bei, thank you so much for your insightful talk. I think we have a lot of stuff to talk about for 3 or 4 more podcasts, but let's keep that to the workshop.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and please join our workshop. It's going to be fun, and it's around Chinese New Year, so I think we're going to have a lot of fireworks and.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dit was een podcast van Digital Shapers. Elke eerste maandag van de maand een nieuwe aflevering. Te beluisteren op Spotify, iTunes, Soundcloud en op www.digitalshapers.nl.